If there's one thing that the public has learned in the last few years, it's that the world of celebrities and politics often intersects in unpredictable and sometimes explosive ways. One of the most interesting and enduring rivalries has been the ongoing feud between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Donald Trump. Their contentious relationship began decades ago, during the time when Schwarzenegger, the action movie legend and former governor of California, took over hosting duties for Trump on the reality TV show The Celebrity Apprentice. This shift from Trump to Schwarzenegger was seen as a symbolic end of an era. Trump's reign as the head of the show had been marred by a series of controversies, and his departure was largely influenced by his declining ratings and the public's increasing fatigue with his antics. Schwarzenegger's hosting was supposed to bring a fresh perspective to the show, but instead, it sparked a series of public jabs between the two men. From Twitter rants to passive-aggressive barbs at public events, these two men, larger than life in their respective arenas, became embroiled in a feud that seemed to know no bounds. While the rivalry may have started as a battle of egos, it quickly transformed into a bitter, personal vendetta. And yet, despite their frequent verbal skirmishes, there was one unwritten rule: don't involve Melania Trump, a surprising target. Melania in the crosshairs. For years, Melania Trump had remained an enigmatic figure in the public eye. The First Lady of the United States had mastered the art of blending into the background, rarely making waves and seemingly untouched by the chaos swirling around her husband's presidency. She adopted a calm, poised demeanor that contrasted sharply with her husband's bombastic style, projecting an air of elegance and detachment. She was, in many ways, the opposite of Donald Trump: less outspoken, less flashy, and far more reserved. In her rare public appearances, Melania managed to avoid controversy by projecting an image of grace, focused on her initiatives like her Be Best campaign for children's well-being and cyberbullying. While Trump thrived on controversy, Melania's presence acted as a counterbalance, a quiet anchor amidst the political storm. Her willingness to remain mostly silent made her an elusive figure in American politics, one that people didn't quite know how to dissect or react to. But it seemed that no one, including Trump's political opponents, dared to directly target her. Until now. Arnold Schwarzenegger takes aim. In 2025, Arnold Schwarzenegger, known for his roles in The Terminator, Predator, and Total Recall, made an unexpected move that stunned the public. Sitting down for what was supposed to be a routine interview discussing climate change and fitness, Schwarzenegger, at 77 years old, turned the conversation in a completely unexpected direction. The host casually brought up the topic of political leadership, and that's when Arnold dropped a bombshell. "At least I never had to hide behind my wife," Schwarzenegger said with a smirk. The statement immediately left viewers stunned. It was a casual remark, but it carried weight. Schwarzenegger, known for his larger-than-life persona, had just taken an unexpected jab at Donald Trump, and more specifically, at Melania Trump. It wasn't an overt attack, but it didn't need to be. In that moment, Schwarzenegger had made his point clear. Trump, in his eyes, was someone who often used his wife as a shield to deflect criticism, especially when the heat became too intense. The internet goes wild: memes, speculation, and conspiracy theories. What followed was an explosion of reactions on the internet. Within minutes of Schwarzenegger's comment, the hashtag number #FreeMelania began trending. Memes flooded social media, and TikTokers quickly turned the soundbite into a viral remix. The internet couldn't get enough of the cryptic remark. Was Schwarzenegger simply making a playful comment? Or was he implying something deeper about the Trump family's dynamics? Some speculated that Arnold was calling out Trump for using his wife as a PR tool, a human shield to distract from the controversies surrounding his presidency. Others saw it as a subtle dig at Melania herself, perhaps referencing her infamous "I don't really care, do you?" jacket moment, which had sparked outrage during a visit to the US-Mexico border in 2018. The speculation was endless. Some wondered if Schwarzenegger was exacting a form of delayed revenge for a snub that Melania might have made years ago, or whether he was simply bored and decided to throw a little chaos into the already combustible political landscape. Was this a case of political payback? Or was it just another example of Hollywood celebrities being drawn into the circus of American politics? A new chapter in the long-standing feud. To understand why Schwarzenegger targeted Melania and not Trump directly, we must first examine the long history between Arnold and the former president. The two men had been rivals for years, starting with the Apprentice debacle and continuing through Trump's political career. In 2017, Schwarzenegger had publicly criticized Trump for his behavior during the infamous press conference with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Schwarzenegger described Trump's performance as embarrassing, calling him a little fanboy who failed to stand up for American interests on the world stage. This wasn't the first time Schwarzenegger had taken aim at Trump, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. However, the difference in 2025 was that Arnold had not only gone after Trump, but had made a pointed comment about his wife. This was a departure from the norm, where Melania had, for the most part, been spared from the political brawls that had become commonplace in Trump's presidency. Was this a personal shot, or was it a calculated move in a larger battle between two political titans? A rare Melania public appearance. The whole saga began with Melania Trump, who, after years of near-complete silence, made a rare public appearance to discuss immigration policy. Known for her reticent, carefully crafted public persona, Melania has mostly stayed in the background since her time as First Lady, allowing the spotlight to fall primarily on her husband, former President Donald Trump. Despite her silence, Melania has often been the subject of public speculation and scrutiny, particularly in the wake of her husband's political career and the controversial policies he championed during his presidency. Her appearance on the political stage once again sparked conversation, but this time, it was not the policies or her message that caught people's attention. It was something much more unexpected. Arnold Schwarzenegger's uncharacteristic comment. Schwarzenegger, the actor-turned-politician, had been vocal about his criticisms of the Trump administration for years. His stance on climate change, social justice, and other progressive issues had often put him at odds with Trump's more conservative ideologies. But this time, his comment seemed to take an even more personal turn, one that drew Melania into the crossfire. A rare move considering the unwritten rule that her silence had often protected her from public backlash. The moment that changed everything. It was in an interview discussing political leadership and climate change that Arnold Schwarzenegger dropped a bombshell that immediately sent shockwaves through the internet. He made a comment that seemingly came out of nowhere. "At least I never had to hide behind my wife." The line landed like a punch, causing the internet to explode with memes, reactions, and wild speculation. What made this statement so impactful? For one, it was the first time that Arnold had publicly made a jab at Melania Trump, a move that no one expected. Schwarzenegger, known for his playful banter and larger-than-life persona, had long kept his critiques focused on Donald Trump himself. He had never before involved Melania in his criticisms, opting instead to leave her largely out of the spotlight. This comment, however, was different. It wasn't just an attack on Trump. It was an indirect critique of Melania's role as a silent figure in the public eye, especially during her husband's tumultuous presidency. In a world that thrives on noise and confrontation, Melania's stoic demeanor, her "don't care, do you?" attitude had made her an enigmatic figure. For many, she represented the epitome of privilege and detachment, a woman who could seemingly float above the chaos, untouched and unscathed by the controversies surrounding her husband. But in Arnold's comment, one could sense a deeper criticism: the privilege of silence. While Trump made headlines daily with his fiery rhetoric and controversial policies, Melania's refusal to engage in public discourse had allowed her to remain a passive observer, quietly floating through scandal after scandal. Was Arnold implying that silence, especially in the face of wrongdoing, can be as powerful and as damaging as loud protests? After all, Arnold had built his career on fighting against injustices, whether they were embodied by fictional villains or real-world political figures. Melania's brand of silence. Melania Trump has long been associated with an aura of elegance and composure, but her refusal to publicly denounce or speak out against her husband's actions painted her as a figure of complicity. Throughout Trump's presidency, she was often seen as the silent partner in the White House, never expressing opinions on the policies or controversies that swirled around her. Instead, she remained in the background, focusing on her personal brand, public appearances, and seemingly effortless poise. Her refusal to engage with the public on serious political matters earned her the reputation of a woman who chose to stay neutral, perhaps out of self-preservation or simply because her role in her husband's administration was secondary to the man himself. In many ways, Melania's silence became her trademark. It was a silence that often spoke louder than words. By saying nothing, she managed to convey a sense of detachment and distance from the chaos around her. For the public, this silence was often interpreted as approval, tacit endorsement, or at the very least, indifference to the damage caused by her husband's actions. This image of the cold, aloof First Lady who appeared impervious to scandal had, for better or worse, become her brand. But it's also important to recognize that Melania's silence was not necessarily passive. In fact, it could be argued that her reticence was a form of resistance in itself, a deflection from the constant media scrutiny. In a world where every word and action is analyzed and dissected, Melania's choice to remain quiet allowed her to maintain control over her image in ways that many of her peers in the political spotlight could not. Arnold's critique, a challenge to the status quo. Arnold Schwarzenegger, however, has never been one to shy away from confrontation. His career, both in Hollywood and in politics, has been defined by his willingness to engage, to speak out, and to challenge those in power. His life and career have been built on the idea of using strength, both physical and moral, to fight against injustices, whether they are embodied by villains in action movies or by corrupt political systems. By making this comment about Melania, Arnold wasn't just criticizing her. He was challenging the broader societal tendency to give power to those who remain silent, to those who can afford to detach themselves from the consequences of their actions. It was a challenge to the privilege of silence, a statement that said, "I won't let you hide behind your position of privilege." This remark also marked a deeper shift in the cultural landscape. In 2025, where celebrity culture and politics are often intertwined, Arnold's comment was a statement against the growing trend of political figures, especially women, who use silence as a tool to maintain their power. In a time when the world is burning with issues like climate change, racial inequality, and political corruption, remaining silent has become a luxury that only a few can afford. The Internet's response, a new age of meme warfare. Once Arnold's remark hit the airwaves, the Internet did what it does best. It took the statement and turned it into a meme-worthy spectacle. Within minutes, Twitter exploded with posts and memes, each one trying to outdo the last. Some users painted Arnold as the heroic voice of reason, while others rallied behind Melania, defending her right to remain silent. Arnold's words quickly became fodder for meme creators and TikTokers alike, who transformed the comment into a viral sensation. Memes flooded the platform, with Arnold photoshopped into action scenes from his iconic films, holding up signs that read, "Make America Lift Again," and "Hasta la vista, Donnie." On the other hand, Melania was depicted as the silent, stoic figure in the background, adding yet another layer to her already well-established persona. But beyond the memes, Arnold's comment also sparked a deeper discussion about the role of public figures and their responsibility to speak out, especially in times of political and environmental crisis. The debate went beyond simple celebrity drama and into the realm of social and political commentary, forcing the public to confront uncomfortable truths about the politics of silence. The bigger picture: celebrity culture as political theater. The entire feud, while absurd on the surface, is also a reflection of the increasingly blurred lines between celebrity culture and politics in 2025. What was once seen as petty tabloid gossip has evolved into a form of political theater, with figures like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Melania Trump becoming symbols of larger cultural battles. The celebrity feud, once the domain of reality TV stars and gossip columns, has now become a central feature of American culture. In 2025, the world is consumed with the drama of the rich and powerful, as their personal battles often overshadow real-world issues. Celebrity feuds have become a coping mechanism for a society grappling with climate change, political instability, and economic uncertainty. Instead of focusing on the pressing issues of the day, many turn their attention to the petty squabbles of the elite, finding comfort in the chaos. And so, as the 2025 election cycle looms on the horizon, the question remains: will Melania respond to Arnold's jab? Will she break her silence and engage in the drama? Or will she continue to let her indifference speak louder than words? In a world where the line between reality and entertainment continues to blur, this feud might just be the latest in a long line of bizarre political spectacles. One thing is certain, though: as long as the internet is watching, Arnold and Melania's showdown will continue to captivate and entertain, no matter how absurd it may seem. In the end, it might not matter who wins this feud. What matters is that it reflects a world in which silence, celebrity culture, and political theater have become inseparable. As we brace for the future, one thing is clear. In 2025, celebrity feuds are no longer just distractions. They're the main event. The silent power of Melania. Melania. Trump had always been an enigma, and her silence was often seen as a form of quiet power. In a world where every word and gesture is scrutinized, Melania's decision to maintain a relatively low profile had shielded her from much of the public vitriol directed at her husband. She had, in a way, mastered the art of saying nothing while still saying everything. Her silence spoke volumes about her role in the Trump presidency. While Donald Trump thrived on being the center of attention, Melania seemed content to let her husband be the lightning rod while she quietly worked behind the scenes on initiatives that often went unnoticed by the media. But as her public presence began to increase in the years following her husband's presidency, so too did the attention that was directed her way. The power of a celebrity feud. What made Schwarzenegger's jab at Melania so impactful was not just the words themselves, but the context in which they were delivered. A Hollywood icon, Arnold Schwarzenegger was no stranger to public feuds. However, this wasn't just another beef between celebrities. It was a public clash between two of the most famous figures in American politics. Arnold, with his Austrian accent and Terminator persona, wasn't just a former governor and action star. He was an outsider in the world of politics, an entertainer with a genuine passion for global issues. On the other hand, Melania Trump, with her soft-spoken demeanor and controversial role as the First Lady, represented everything that Arnold had come to critique during his political career. What made the situation even more intriguing was the fact that Arnold had never publicly gone after Melania before. His feud had always been with Donald Trump, but in 2025, something had shifted. Arnold had decided to make a pointed remark about Melania, and the public took notice. Why now? Why was Melania suddenly a target of his ire? Some believed that Arnold was simply striking back at the Trump family for their role in the political chaos that had gripped the nation for years. Others speculated that Arnold's frustration with Trump had reached a boiling point, and he was lashing out at the president's vulnerabilities. By targeting Melania, he was hitting Trump where it hurt the most. The relationship between the two was seen by many as a cornerstone of Trump's public image. Melania, with her cool exterior, was viewed as the one person who could keep the president grounded. To attack her was to attack him indirectly, hitting at the very heart of his personal life. Schwarzenegger's legacy, the ultimate burn. At the end of the day, Schwarzenegger's comment was a classic example of his larger-than-life personality. It wasn't just a personal jab at Melania or Donald Trump. It was a calculated move in a much larger public drama. Arnold knew exactly what he was doing when he made the remark. By saying, "At least I never had to hide behind my wife," he not only poked fun at Trump's political tactics, but also tapped into a broader conversation about the role of public figures and the power dynamics at play in American politics. The meme culture that followed only added to the spectacle, as social media exploded with reactions to Arnold's comment. Fans and critics alike took to Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram to share their opinions, and within hours, Schwarzenegger's quip became a viral sensation. Whether you loved him or hated him, Arnold Schwarzenegger had delivered one of the most unexpected burns of the year, and the internet was more than happy to run with it. Conclusion: a moment that defined 2025. In the grand scheme of things, Arnold Schwarzenegger's comments about Melania Trump may seem like just another celebrity spat in a world full of them. But in the context of the volatile political climate of 2025, it was a moment that captured the intersection of politics, celebrity, and social media in a way that few other events had. It was a reminder that, in a world dominated by egos and high stakes, even the most unexpected clashes can become defining moments. And as the internet continued to explode with memes, reactions, and speculation, one thing was clear: Arnold Schwarzenegger had once again proved that in Hollywood, no one does drama quite like the action star-turned-politician.